Kimball. A plan to redevelop and transform the Brooklyn Marine Terminal on the Red Hook waterfront is moving ahead after multiple delays. The proposal was created by a task force convened by local and state leaders and approved just yesterday. The $3.5 billion proposal includes plans to renovate the current 60-acre terminal into an all-electric port and deliver 6,000 housing units, 40% of them being permanently affordable, and create 275,000 square feet of commercial space. I don't know if that includes the hotel, but there'll be a hotel there too. Joining me now to talk about all of this and how it happened and what comes next, we've got a special panel. Andrew Kimball is the president and CEO of the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Adolfo Carrión Jr. is the deputy mayor for Housing and Economic Development and Workforce. Welcome back to the program and congratulations. I know this is a long time coming. You've been working on other things along the waterfront for a number of years now. But this is, well, I want to get the financing right. About $500 million, it looks like, in city, state, and federal funding. The city's putting in the most, about $192 million. Is that from EDC or is that from the General Treasury?
That's from City Capital, and that's a match to the federal grant, the largest federal grant EDC's ever received, $164 million that Congressman Dan Goldman was instrumental in securing.
You're going to have a big container port, something similar to what we see on the other side in New Jersey, where they're lifting stuff off of boats and putting them onto trucks or rail or whatever it might be. Who's the operator going to be? Who's going to run this whole thing?
First of all, it's not going to be what you see across the harbor in New Jersey. This is not a competitor to New Jersey. This is a very small niche port focused on getting trucks off of our roads, improving our environment, improving all the negative economic impact that comes from trucks. And it's part of a broader Blue Highway network throughout the city, where we're going to really go back to the future and start moving goods by water again.
And so the idea is that instead of having it land in Newark and get trucked over the bridge and all the way through the city, it would just come to Red Hook and then go out to Long Island or wherever.
There'll be some goods that'll come directly into Brooklyn, particularly perishable goods, food. So there is no direct route for food into the 5 boroughs today east of the Hudson. So God forbid something happens to the Verrazzano or the GW, we need to have food supply coming directly into New York. Then we're going to transload those containers onto barges and send them directly up to Hunts Point so that they can get processed and redistributed throughout the city. What happens today is that those goods either go to Brooklyn or go to New Jersey, but even the goods going into Brooklyn come back to New Jersey, then they get on a truck, then they cross our bridges, they go to the Bronx, they get on another truck. That's just not sustainable. We're going to fix that with this plan.
Okay. Let's talk about the housing. 6,000 units, 40% of them permanently affordable. What kind of housing will it be? Is this going to be sort of specialized? Is it going to be mixed?
This is going to be mixed income housing, 6,000 units. 40% of the housing will be permanently affordable, and it'll be affordable to working families, moderate income families. We're talking about 60% of AMI, which is very affordable in this market. But this is in the context of a larger crisis that we're facing, Earl. You know, we have the lowest vacancy rate that we've had in generations, I think since the 1960s. And speaking of the 1960s, we took the zoning code, the New York City zoning code, and modernized it to create the City of Yes for housing opportunity that will generate several 100,000 units of housing. So we're talking about really game-changing initiatives. But going back to the Brooklyn Marine Terminal, this host community said to the city, we need affordable housing, we need high quality housing, and we know that we have a supply challenge here in this town. Everybody has talked about the need for 500,000, 600,000 units just to keep up with the natural demand. We're making efforts in every possible way to address that, and of course, this gives us a grand opportunity to address that crisis.
Do you have a developer in mind? Have you gotten a couple of nibbles or expressions of interest?
The way that this will work is that, we create a platform for competition and opportunity. So this will go out competitively to allow developers to come with their best and brightest ideas, the best designs, and the best relationships with the host community, because again, we did this in partnership with the host community. This is classic sausage making. So today was a big deal because getting 2/3, a super majority of this task force to agree, elected officials, local activists, local business people, people that have a history and an attachment to the industrial and port uses, all had to come to an agreement. It was a big victory.
Well, as a former elected official, and those who don't know, this is a former Bronx Borough president. The fact that the final vote was 17-8, were those hard no's? Are those no's that are going to turn into lawsuits, or is this more along the lines of it's not perfect, it's not good enough yet, there's still room for improvement?
I think that there is a mix of very hard no's, people never under any circumstances. But in that group, there were folks who were like, "This is still too imperfect for what I'd like to achieve." Some of the local issues that they raised, they just couldn't get over them. I think those folks, and we have experience in this, we've done this many times before, those folks will come around at some point when those investments start to show up in their neighborhood. There's going to be a difference of opinion.
One of the things that happens with the development is it proceeds in a kind of asymmetric way, meaning there'll be people living there before there's a school there for their kids, or before there's enough shopping options for them, or restaurant options and so forth. How do you deal with that? I mean, what's the projection for, in this case, how you make it as well synced up as you can make it?
I think part of the benefit of having this year-and-a-half process with 28 members where they've all become experts on the plan to some degree is that you have staying power in terms of people understanding what the plan is, how it's phased over time. And so we have a very clear plan where every phase of the project will include housing, some community benefit, transportation improvements, both short-term and long-term. But the one piece of it that's going to go out in total, right at the beginning, is the port. And to find a port operator who will invest alongside us to bring the kinds of cranes you were pointing out before, to run the cruise terminal there, to help us really develop this Blue Highway. I just want to draw a fine line on this extraordinary coalition. You've been around big development projects your whole career. To have members of the ILA, the leadership of the NYCHA houses, folks who own homes in the community saying, yes, please, in my backyard. To have an extraordinary number of community groups and citywide groups, from the Regional Plan Association to Transportation Alternatives, saying, this is a project that meets the moment. It meets the moment of our affordability crisis, it meets the moment of our climate crisis, and it meets the moment for housing. And it can do all of these things. And I think because of some of that goodwill that we've built up, despite some of the issues around numbers of votes, sets us up well for what will be a long next step of the process, which is going through the state general project plan.
Yeah, and on that note, the investment, the biggest investment, the $3+ billion, is going to come from a private operator. I can't imagine there are all that many places in the world where what they do is run ports, right? I mean, it's a relatively small universe that you're going to be trying to attract.
The biggest investment is going to come from the housing developers. So in addition to 40% permanently affordable at 60% AMI, there'll be about 40% condos. That will throw off revenue that allows us to build the infrastructure, raise the housing 15 to 21 feet off of the shoreline, create 28 acres of park, and also cross-subsidize the port, the base infrastructure, what's underground, the bulkheads. The port operator will come in and build out the top side, the cranes, the electrical equipment. This is going to be the first all-electric port anywhere, and it's not the 1950s anymore. We can do these two things together. We can have a modern port, we can have light industrial in the base of residential buildings. It really is an extraordinary plan.
Okay, well, we will continue to follow this. It's exciting that you got this far, so a few more steps along the way. Thanks so much for coming by. Great talking with you.